What if I told you that a system of buying literally everyone possible in the world and putting them into reserve teams and out on loan actually would work? Well, it has worked for Red Bull Salzburg, with players like Haaland, Mane, Upamecano and more coming through their system. So why is Salzburg's scouting system so good? Hi everyone, I'm Szoboszlai and welcome back to another Red Bull video, and in this video we're going to look at all the players who've come through the Salzburg system and the places they've come from to try and get a better idea of how the system works. I have a whole playlist of Red Bull videos, so check that out if you want to. There's also timestamps on the bottom for you to skip to whichever part seems most interesting, so make sure to do that. Also, Red Bull's videos seem to be doing super well recently, considering that the country that views my videos the fourth most is Zambia, of course, because of Pats and Daka. So shout out to Zambia. And so it makes sense to start off with the Zambian duo Pats and Daka and Enoch and Wepu, and they both started off in the same system in Zambia, the Airtel Rising Stars. They were both spotted at the 2015 Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, although Daka had to spend a while at Salzburg's reserve team FC Liefering before he could make the jump to the main team. It took until Zambia's Under-20 World Cup run in 2017 for Salzburg to finally buy Wepu after some persuasion from Daka. Which brings me to the first category we're going to be looking at, which is scouting from tournaments and the African Scouting Network. A lot of African players, as well as players from around the world, get signed by European clubs after big youth tournaments, but Salzburg have a scouting network, 12 management in Africa, that helps back up buying these players, as they can more reliably see whether they're good or not. And of course they can buy more players due to their reserve and loan system, which means they can have more players in the club who get solid playing time. I mean, they even made a team in Africa at one point, Red Bull Ghana, but it doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, here's a list of players who were found from youth tournaments. So first of all, we have Diadier Samaseku, who's now at Hoffenheim. He signed for Salzburg after the 2015 Under-20 World Cup. Sadio Mane, and although he was at Metz in France and he gained a lot of attention there, he was spotted at the 2012 Olympic Games. Naby Keita was another player based in France at the time, but he was scouted whilst playing for Guinea. Sekou Koita, another Salzburg young talent, played in the same tournament as Daka and Wepu did back in 2015, and he made his Mali debut just 16 in 2016 before going to Salzburg. And Amadou Haidara was also in that brilliant Mali team. Also, Hwang Hee-chan was also scouted playing internationally for South Korea, while Deo Upamecano, Minamino and Daka also all starred in youth tournaments at some point, and that helped Salzburg make the decision to buy them all. Many players are found at club level in Africa too. As I said, 12 management works alongside many African countries' systems and leagues to try and find players for Salzburg. There are currently 8 players scouted from Africa in the Salzburg setup, whether that be out on loan or at Liefering. And something Salzburg are starting to do a bit more is something I call reject scouting, which is buying players off of big clubs, which has always been a good recruitment strategy for teams. I mean, just take a look at De Bruyne, for example. And in the past, this was mostly used to get squad players, like what was at the time a squad player, Peter Galaxy, but he turned out to be a superstar, as he's now one of the best goalkeepers in the Bundesliga. But that was just a bit of luck. This tactic is used a lot now in the current lineup. For example, Antoine Beneda, he's only 21 and he signed from PSG last winter. Max Verber signed for 12 million euros after failing at Sevilla, and he's now become one of the star members of the team and will probably likely move on. Jerome Onguene signed from Stuttgart after he failed to break into the team there. And Rasmus Christiansen signed from Ajax, are some of the main players in the team, and they could well get sold again and go even further in their careers. It's just they're not in the spotlight at the moment because of Daka and Haaland and Minamino and 10 other players that got sold recently. So someone who doesn't quite fit into this category is Karim Adeyemi, because although he did play for Bayern, it was a long time ago. I think he better fits into this category, which is the stepping stone players. And what I mean by this is these are players developed by other teams originally that are bought for big money by Salzburg. They'll go straight into first team with the expectation that they will move on in a couple of years. So Karim Adeyemi, of course, was bought by Salzburg for 2.3 million, for example, and he has gone into the first team. He does play a bit for the reserves, but he is only 18, so he's kind of the exception to this rule. But there's also Deo Upamecano. He was bought for 2.2 million euros and he was sold a year later for 10 million to RB Leipzig. Erling Haaland was bought for Molde for a fair amount, and was given a release clause so that he could leave, and gave him even more incentive to join Salzburg. So they attract players by saying, okay, look, play for us for a couple of years and we'll let you go for a very cheap amount, unless of course you're hiring Hee-chan, but he came in a different way. Even Minamino, even though he was quite cheap, he was still given one of these release clauses so that he could leave. Salzburg's latest attempt at this is probably some of the most money they've spent in years, which is Noah Okafor, who was bought for 10 million recently, and he's only 20, and he could sell for a lot more than that. But speaking of Okafor, here's another category coming up. Salzburg's geographical position means that they can easily send scouts to a lot of top leagues, hence the next category, which I'm calling the Bayern of Central Europe. Salzburg like to buy the best players in the surrounding leagues. For example, Noah Okafor was one of Basel's best players. Basel often top the Swiss league, of course, and he was sold to Salzburg, which is just a neighbour in what should be a similar quality of league, but that just shows the sort of players that Salzburg can attract now. Marcel Sabitzer was snatched from rivals Rapid Vienna. Of course, he wasn't a Salzburg player, he was only on loan at Salzburg, but of course they thought he'd be good enough for Leipzig straight away, and he was. Munas de Boer, now of Hoffenheim, was bought from Swiss club Grasshopper after he top scored in a Swiss Super League season. And this also happens with youth level players, like for example Dominik Szoboszlai was bought from a Hungarian team at the youth level, and Gia Kaletakar was bought from an Austrian team as well. So Salzburg do like to imitate Bayern Munich, but Salzburg don't just steal players. People say that they're ruining Austrian football. In this category, of course, that Austria academy players, they show that they are clearly improving it. I mean, 11 of the 32 players who have been called up to the Austria team since September have played for Salzburg. Well, that's more than a third of Austria's national team have played for Salzburg at some point. I mean, that's a pretty significant impact. And some of these players include Sabitzer, Schlager, Hinteregger, Leiner, Lazaro, Ilsanker, Verber, Wolf, Lima, and so many more good Austrian players that have been produced by Salzburg. Next up, we have the Red Bull Network. The Red Bull Network is also a factor for their scouting, and Salzburg generally get either Leipzig rejects or Red Bull Brazil players, of course now RB Bragantino players, and no one really good though, unless you're a big fan of Bernardo or Andre Ramalho. I don't think they have any fans, to be honest. So let's get to probably the most important thing, and that is the importance of FC Liefering. Probably not pronouncing that right, to be honest, but yeah, I was rightly called out on missing out on FC Liefering in my first Red Bull video. They are really important, so having a dedicated second team in a professional league is something essential for youth development, as shown by Real Madrid, Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and as shown by the lack of quality in English football, because the youth teams have to play against each other and they can't play against, you know, tough opponents. Most Salzburg players nowadays play for Liefering before playing in the main team, and the rules allow them to switch players between Salzburg and Liefering whenever, so it means that you're not stuck at Liefering for a whole season or at Salzburg for a whole season. It also allows Salzburg players to play in the UEFA Youth League, and this is quite rare for, you know, a non-big club. This tactic is so effective that Lask Linz recently copied it, and they now have their own team. I mean, that just shows how much of an effect Salzburg are having, and Lask Linz are now starting to bring in some pretty good youth players who sell for a lot. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. If I have, make sure to tell me in the comments so I can make another video. And yeah, hopefully gonna start uploading a lot. I mean, the subscribers have been crazy, so thanks a lot for that. And yeah, not too much else to say. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.